Hey there people, and welcome to my updated Rust guide for 2020. This is mainly a tutorial for beginners, but I will be covering a lot of topics, including all the basic information on how the game works and how to get started. I'll be breaking it down into sections with timestamps in the description so you can jump ahead to what you need. I'll be covering food, resources, crafting, building, transportation, monuments, and more. So, first, a quick introduction to Rust. The game has been on PC for years, but it has now also been announced as coming to PS4 and Xbox One. This guide should apply to all versions, assuming no major differences when it is released for consoles. They do still update and add to the game regularly, but the basics are pretty mature at this point. So Rust is a brutal game. Be prepared to be murdered repeatedly. Most people you meet can't be trusted. The challenge of Rust is really to survive long enough to build a base and collect supplies, but that becomes very rewarding since there's actually quite a bit of progression and unending potential mayhem in the game. You can get a lot of really funny things happen in Rust. So how to get started? Well, first of all, when you choose play game, you're going to get a list of servers. The first thing you need to do is choose a server. Servers fall under three major categories: official, community, and modded. So modded servers can give you unique experiences, special game types, and practice opportunities, but most of the action and fun is actually in the regular main game, which you'll find under the official or community tabs. You might want to try the main official servers first to get the basic idea. It's kind of a good place to learn the basics. But then you might actually want to practice or try things out on the modded servers because there are some that will give you an opportunity to do some things. And then you can come back to the official or community servers for the real deal. Modded servers can give you, some supplies for building a safe environment in which to practice certain things or practice with combat, that kind of thing. That's one of the things that modded can be good for. We'll talk a little bit about that more in a second. So keep in mind, though, that your progression is tied to the server that you're playing on. So when you're ready to get serious, make a note of the server or favorite it before joining because your progression is tied to that server. Servers usually have a wipe schedule and or forced wipes, and a wipe is where it resets progress and buildings and everything for everyone. So when a wipe happens, everything on that server is essentially wiped out and you start fresh. So keep that in mind. Read the server description before clicking join for any info about that server. So you can see some have that, some don't. Official servers. There we go. It just takes a second to load. So yeah, they'll have a little description here, and that'll give you a chance to learn what is unique, perhaps, or not unique about that server. When you're first getting started, again, you may want to choose a server without many players on it. A low population server is a good place to get a little practice as well. And there are servers that are made for playing solo only specifically. There are others, particularly modded servers, that are made for experimenting with building, experimenting with combat, and so on. Another approach is simply to jump right in on a busy server, practice combat that way, and loot your enemies. An easy way to get stuff is to kill other people and take theirs. So there are servers just for practicing combat, just for practicing building, and there are servers for practicing fighting or even battle royale. Yes, there are mods like that in Rust as well. There are tons of mods with all kinds of things going on, so that can be fun, even if you get bored of the main game as well. But part of getting started is learning the controls. So you'll find that in the options menu under controls. It's a good place to just look at what the controls are. You can see mine are like reassigned kind of insanely because I'm left-handed. But that's a good place just to get an idea of the basic controls. On PC, though, the default key for reload is R, use key is E for interacting with things, the map key is G, the inventory key is Tab, and the compass is C. Those are things that you'll need. You'll also have a toolbar or belt, which is like your quick access item line where you can put up to 6 items for quick access and access those. Again, on PC, you use the number keys to access those. When you open an object's inventory, you can right-click items inside the inventory of that object to quick loot them, including bodies. And you can also do the same if you're not accessing something that has its own inventory. You can do the same to move items from your regular inventory to your belt, your quick access belt. If you have free slots there, just right-click things in your inventory to move them there. So, getting into the game, normally you'll actually spawn on a beach near the ocean or near a beach. I believe there is still a beginner side of the island, and there's better loot actually towards the other side. So I've moved from my spawn point already, but you'll want to keep an eye on your status meters and effects down in the bottom right. You can see I've got a little green meter there for my health, a blue meter for my hydration, water, and an orange meter for food. Those are the 3 meters. Any status effects will appear above those meters. Of course, those are important. Other than just health, when your food runs out, you will starve and start to lose health. When your water runs low, less than 50, you become dehydrated, which slows you down and affects you other ways. And again, there are other statuses that can appear above that, usually in red, such as wet, cold, and so on, and those will have effects on you as well. So normally you will also have a tutorial task list when you first start out that appears in the top corner, which will tell you to do basic things like collect wood to make a spear, collect cloth and craft a sleeping bag, craft a hammer, and so on. But let's get straight on to food and drink. So I position myself nicely here near a river because edible plants are commonly found near riversides, although that may be rare on populated servers. But you can see here, pumpkin conveniently growing. There's some corn conveniently growing. If you're on a busy server, a lot of people might beat you to these, and this might not be quite so simple. I am just on my own little test server here so that I don't get murdered while I'm talking to you, but you can find potatoes, corn, potatoes, and berries. The seeds can be planted, but they should only be harvested when they're fully grown. What you'll notice is those particular plants naturally occurring, and there you can see that wet effect above my health bar. Naturally occurring food won't show a yield progress, but planted food will. So I planted a bunch of food over here, and you can see it has a little more information like the yield. Normally, if you're harvesting planted food, you'll only want to harvest it once the yield gets to 100%. So that's also a way you can loot food that you find randomly around bases as well, but you'll need to be careful of nearby players. So you'll be able to tell if it was planted by someone based on it showing those little bit of information there, the status of the food. So that's the difference between naturally occurring and planted food. And you can use that to avoid stealing other people's stuff who might notice what you're doing and murder you. Of course, people might just murder you anyway. That's kind of how Rust works. But mushrooms are also sometimes a bit easier to find on busier servers. You'll find actually soil that looks sort of like this. It's kind of sandy or mulchy. But in forested areas, you won't generally find, as far as I know, mushrooms in an area like this, where it's more of a desert. Usually you'll find mushrooms in forested areas, up on hills, in like grassy areas, but you'll see soil that actually does look a fair bit like this, minus quite so much plant life perhaps, but that's where you'll find mushrooms. They're like little red things. They don't give you a lot of food, but they're usually found in clusters, so they can do the job and help you survive long enough to get something else. Of course, it is also possible to kill animals, and if you can manage to do that, you'll get some meat from animals. You'll need to cook the meat in a fire, ideally. You can make a campfire, cook the meat in a simple campfire to increase its benefit and avoid the chance of being poisoned by it. So if you eat raw meat, it won't give you as much health and food value, and it also gives you a chance to be poisoned by it. So cook it. Important to know. There are a few different types of animals that can be found: chickens and boars and bears and so on. Some are obviously easier to fight or kill than others. Chickens are pretty easy. Wild boars a little bit tougher. And there are wolves and stuff as well. It's possible to sneak up on them or chase them, but it's easier to use a bow. Most of those animals will be killed by 3 or 4 arrows. Bears will take 7 to 10. Again, on highly populated servers, food is going to be harder to come by, and that's a big challenge if you're playing on a high population server early on. The most readily available food on a high pop server actually might be human bodies. So again, beginners usually spawn near the beach. So often you can find bodies near the beach. And you can cut up the bodies, ideally with a hatchet, although I do believe your trusty rock will also work. And you can cook that human meat. You do need to cut up the body to get the human meat from the body, and then you can cook that meat. The thing about human meat, though, is it has a dehydration penalty effect, so make sure that you have water available or nearby, especially if you're eating a lot of human. So food will help regenerate some of your health if you have at least 100 food and a comfort bonus from a campfire or similar, then your health should regenerate. You'll notice I've got plenty of food, but my health is not regenerating because I don't have that campfire comfort bonus. You can also drink directly from a river or lake simply by walking up to it. Push your use key. Default is E for that. But you can also put it in various containers. You can get plastic bottles, water cans, and so on, and fill them up in the river as well. So either a river or lake will work for that. Now, as far as progression, well, again, other players will often try to murder you. It's an easier way to get resources and materials. So you can do the same thing. You can go for weapons early, try to get a bow or even just a spear or something, and try to kill them first and take their stuff. They're going to do the same to you mostly. So lots of weapons can be found or crafted. Basic melee or bow weapons can be crafted right away. And eventually you can get military assault and sniper rifles, even rocket and grenade launchers. There's lots of fun to be had. So again, another option is to player practice on a modded server. Some of them are set up for easy building. Some of them are set up for combat and so on. There is now a death marker on the map to help you find the last location where you died. So last place you died, there you go, and that's a good way of finding your stuff. If you do get murdered, if you had some stuff on you, you can try to go back and see if it's still there, although there's a good chance that somebody's going to take your stuff. You can also place markers on that map which teammates can see. Yes, you can have teammates. And the death screen, when you do die, now allows you to choose a sleeping bag to respawn at. You can give your sleeping bags names. It's a good idea. Obviously, you need to place a sleeping bag to have a place to respawn at all. Otherwise, you will just spawn somewhere randomly. And if you do have a sleeping bag, if you only have one, then you'll spawn there. If you put a few around, then you've got more places to spawn. And basically, you can hide them in a bush, just like this. It's a very good idea. Craft a sleeping bag as soon as you can. You just need 30 cloth. And hide it in a bush, maybe a little less obviously than that. And that's a good place and a good method of, having a place to spawn, so you don't just spawn randomly all over the island. You can put a few around, and then you can choose which one to spawn at. It's also a good idea. Again, you're going to be gathering some supplies. People are going to murder you, so you can also stash things. You can build something like this basic wooden box, which again I've hidden in a bush, and that gives you a place to put your stuff. Again, you can right click just to grab the stuff out of it. Simple as that. Try to put it somewhere inconspicuous. I think it's possible to put locks on them if I recall correctly, a little more advanced. So that's an option as well. So that's your basic progression, and other than that, you're going to need to gather resources. And again, you can get them by murdering other people for their resources, but you can also find resources around the map. So one of the resources you're going to need, and as quickly as possible, is hemp. I put some around here somewhere. I planted it though, so it may not be fully grown yet. Yeah, this is my little hemp farm. So it looks something like this, and there we go. Yeah, that's yield 100%, so I can harvest that now. These ones haven't fully grown yet. You'll find it randomly in grassy fields and that kind of thing as well. That's where I got the seeds. So you'll need to go around looking for hemp to get cloth. 30 cloth, you can make your sleeping bag. You'll also want wood and stones. So easy option, actually. Basically, you can harvest wood from most trees. So you can just take out your rock, whack the tree. And I'll tell you about the little mini game a little more later, but there is a little mini game with trees. It's a little X, and you need to go around, and it's better if you hit the X, you get more from that. And also if you get a hatchet, or sorry, yeah, it's a hatchet for the trees. So there's a little mini game to gathering that that will get you more yield and also take down that tree faster. There are also 3 different kinds of rocks or boulders, which I will show you in a minute. But keep in mind that you will attract attention when chopping down a tree or smashing a boulder. Others can hear what you're doing, so they, again, will hear you, and there's a good chance they're going to come and murder you. So a little tip is that there are often stumps and ore nodes just kind of sitting around, and I found one earlier here. Let's see if I can find it again. All right, took me all damn night to find a stump, but there's one. That's what you see, these little stumps laying around. You can just collect that nice and silently. Gives you some wood, 50 wood, as you can see. There are also little nodelets of rock, but you can't just go around collecting any rock you see. You can see, can't collect these, can't smash these ones to get rock, but there are little nodelets, like this one over here, I believe. You'll learn to recognize them after a while. Again, there are 3 types, just like there are 3 types of boulders. So this is a metal ore node. There are stone nodes and there are sulfur nodes, just like there are also stone, metal, and sulfur bearing rocks. So let's see here. Yeah, they're right over here. So this is a sulfur boulder. And again, there's a little mini game to these as well. You'll again learn to recognize these by the shape as well as the color, and the fact that there's this little glint on them is a great clue, because that's the mini game for smashing boulders. And so you just follow that mini game and gradually you get that. That's a sulfur one. This is a sulfur one as well. The regular stone ones look more like that color, but in more that shape. And I also have a metal one way down here somewhere as well. But basically, again, you can't just harvest any rock. Look for that shiny glint and the certain shape as well as a certain color. There are mini games with the X's for the trees and the that's not, oh yeah, that's a sulfur ore node. So you get the idea there. So the X's on the trees and the sparkles on the rocks will tell you where to hit them to get the most yield. There are also trash piles here and there that you'll find, which have crates and or barrels and boxes that you can collect from. I just running towards, there's a metal, this is a metal boulder. So again, you'll learn to recognize the shape. If you see this glint, it's a sure sign. And there you go, metal ore. So you can get metal, sulfur, and then stone from the different types of boulders that way. But as far as crafting, you can quick craft and full craft. So if you go to your crafting menu, again, default is tab. You have these quick craft options here. You can favorite certain items, which is what I did with the sleeping bag there. You'll need to go into the full crafting menu to do that. And that will put them in your quick craft as well as at the front of the queue. So that'll be very useful for things you need often or quickly. For instance, you might need bandages to patch up bleeding, so you might want to keep those in your favorited items. So there you go, favorited. And I can do the same here. Low grade fuel maybe is something I might want to favorite if I'm using a lot of fuel. Yeah, you'll want to craft your sleeping bag and again hide it early on. You can hide that in a bush. You can also craft a box to hide your materials. You'll generally want a hatchet and a pickaxe. These will improve your yield when you're cutting down trees, killing animals, and smashing boulders. So a hatchet will increase the yield for trees, and a pickaxe will increase the yield for boulders. Normally, you'll start by crafting the stone versions, and this is what I was talking about as far as the junk piles. You can find these crates that will have stuff in them. There are barrels and sometimes little boxes as well. The only thing with smashing these is it's very loud, and again, that's going to draw attention. But if you see the barrels, it'll give you that little meter to tell you that you can smash or open stuff, and then you'll need to quickly grab the stuff that falls out. I think I missed it. But those are little loot piles, but again, those are going to grab some attention, so you'll want to be careful with that. And you can see there's another one over there under that tree. As far as weapons, yeah, also as far as the hatchet and pickaxe, you can sometimes also find stone or even metal tools in caves and in other loot deposits like these ones. You might get lucky, look in a crate, find a hatchet or a pickaxe that way. As far as weapons, bows and arrows, oh look, sulfur ore node. As far as weapons, bows and arrows are kind of the early go-to option. You can upgrade to guns once you're able to, which is a whole story. Melee weapons are mainly useful only if you can get close enough before they kill you first. So you can try to practice stealth and sneak up on somebody and stab them with a spear or even hit them with a rock. That's an option, but it's obviously going to be harder if they notice you. They might have a ranged weapon. They might kill you from range. Nighttime is colder and more dangerous. You can use a torch to navigate, or you can also craft a campfire. A campfire will keep you warm, but again, those lights, torches, and campfires are going to attract attention at night. Players might find you and kill you that way. Ideally, you want clothes and or a base as soon as you can, or find an area where the cold effect isn't so bad. It will actually be colder as you go up hills, so you can find your way down. You'll find snowy areas as well. Was that a stone node? Yes, it is. So again, find those. That's a nice quiet way of getting stuff. So yeah, come down from the mountains. Go to the warmer areas, not the snowy areas, if you don't have clothes. But ideally, you do want to get clothes as soon as you can to reduce that cold effect and keep you safe at night. Obviously, you want to build a base if you can. For useful protection against cold and radiation, cover all body parts in clothing, and then you can upgrade to better clothing later. Burlap is the most basic clothing. A sewing kit is required to craft more advanced clothing items. Clothing items you will find come with ratings. You'll need to go to the full crafting menu to see the ratings before you craft them. But there you go. It gives you ratings of how much it will protect you against projectile or melee attacks, bites from animals, radiation, we'll talk about later, and cold. So before you craft it, in the full crafting menu, you can see what that's going to do for you, how much it's going to protect you from cold damage and radiation. Now, as far as building, let's go ahead and get on with that. You will need a building plan to construct. That's right there. Again, that requires some wood, actually, to make that building plan. And you will need a building plan in order to be able to construct things. So you'll choose your building plan, and the first thing you're going to do is a foundation. And then you can actually right-click on a PC at least, and you can choose your wall. Very important thing is to notice that there's an inside and an outside to these things. So this is what we call twig tier, the most basic tier. And so the inside has you'll learn to recognize inside versus outside. If you're inside, you're going to be by default placing such that the inside is facing you and the outside is facing away from you. You will need a hammer to upgrade those things you've built to stronger, more resilient things. Again, you just right click. You can upgrade it to wood, or you can upgrade it to stone, and everything that you build generally has an inside and an outside. So this is the inside, that's the outside. So the outside generally looks, more like an outside of a building would. The inside is more like, well, the inside. And you'll also want to upgrade your foundations. You don't want people breaking things down on you, and that's your basic building. So, of course, you can construct doors. You'll need to go in here and make a doorway. And then you go actually into your crafting menu to craft the actual door. It has an inside and an outside as well. So, yeah, that's all that. And I'm just going to run right over. I did craft a base, or build a base already. But basically how it works is first you need your foundations, walls, doors, roof. Make sure to put a roof on it so somebody can't climb up and get in from the top. There are crafting stations, of course, and there's storage. So again, upgrading the tiers are first the twig tier, which is the initial structure. Wood is the next tier, and then stone, and then sheet metal, which is made from metal fragments, and then armored is the highest tier, which is made from high quality metal. You will need a tool cupboard, and again, you will craft the tool cupboard. This is very important for your building. It claims the area around your base and also gives you some basic storage. The tool cupboard is also important in other respects. You will need to put some stuff in here. I'll talk about that actually just a sec, but you will also need your sleeping bag inside your base. If you want to spawn inside your base, you'll need one of those. Again, you can have some outside as well, which is actually a great idea. So in addition to the sleeping bag, you'll probably early on you might want a campfire to give you that comfort bonus and a place to cook your food. A little later, when you can, you'll want a small furnace, and eventually you can even get a large furnace. The furnace works for that comfort bonus as well, but it allows you to smelt fat into low-grade fuel and metal fragments into sheet metal. So furnace becomes very important as well. Of course, you're going to want storage. You can start with a tiny small box, which gives you just a little bit of space to store some things, or you can upgrade to a large box, which gives you a lot more space, and you can get shelves and all kinds of stuff, so you can fit a lot of stuff in. This is a 2x2 room that I've created here. A 1x1 is going to be not nearly enough to really do much useful. 1x2 you can get away with. And of course, bigger is always better. As far as the doors, again, there is an inside and outside to the doors, and you are going to want to put a lock on your door. If you're playing solo, just a regular key lock will do. If you're a solo player, it will not require you to have a key anymore. You can just open and close the doors. It is possible to make keys for other people, but if you're playing on a team, you probably want to go with a code lock ultimately. And you'll notice I have a little room with a door on either side. This is what's called an airlock. It's very important because it's referred to as an airlock. One door to the inside and one door to the outside. The idea is to prevent people who might kill you as you enter or exit from getting access to the interior of your base. You're going to want to lock on both of them. I didn't do that quite yet. So important as you're leaving, make sure you close your airlock door and then go out. Close that door too. And that way, people who are just waiting outside to kill you can't just, kill you and go right in your base. It'll prevent you from being raided a bit. As far as teams, you can create a team on the inventory screen, and then you can invite other people to it. You can use code locks on the doors and give them the code. It will not automatically grant them access to your base if they're on your team. Your tool cupboard, again, claims your area, but also it maintains your base, and that's why I have a bunch of materials here. It will tell you how much it costs to maintain your base. The bigger your base, the more material you will need, so that is a limiting factor, and then it will tell you how long it's protected for based on the materials in here. I've got some extra other materials, but I haven't upgraded that much yet. But also you need to, if you're on a team, you need to authorize people on your tool cupboard in order for them to be able to build on your base. That's important. You can pass out the code to your code locks via team chat. There is team chat versus full server chat. And the other thing about crafting and progression is that there's a system of blueprints and research tables and workbenches. You get a certain amount of crafting recipes when you start out. Those are sort of basic blueprints, but other crafting recipes, which are called blueprints, have to be discovered and then learned. You get the blueprint, then you need to learn that blueprint in order to be able to actually use it. You can also find some blueprints. Blueprints are tied to your player on that server that you're playing on. If you go to another server, or certain wipes on the server you're playing on will cause you to have to start over. So you research items at a research table, and you can also experiment to get items at a workbench using scrap as a currency. So you will need to collect scrap to help you with your experiments to improve your chances of getting stuff. You can craft a research table or a workbench for your base. You may also find them already placed at certain monuments. You cannot take them, but you can use them there. Workbenches also come in levels. There's level 1, 2, and 3 workbenches, so you may need to upgrade to a higher level workbench to get a higher level blueprint. Now, we're going to talk about transportation, which is why I've been wandering this way. There is now horseback riding in the game, so you will just find a horse like standing around, and you can basically you can hop right on and ride the horse, and you can also lead it. See, there's an option here to lead the animal as well. If you want to keep that horse, you're going to need a trough, and you're going to need to actually feed that horse. And so you can craft this. I already made that, and you can actually put food in it for the horse to eat, and that will keep the horse from, they call it decaying, but basically if you want to keep that horse, you're going to need that. Then you can hop on your horse and you can ride around. So that's one option. You can also get hot air balloons. They do exist in the game. You'll need to find them. Hot air balloons will be just kind of lying around if you're lucky. Again, high population servers, that's less likely. They require low-grade fuel to fly. They are guided by altitude and wind direction. They've also added mini-copters, which is why I'm heading this direction. Mini-copters can be found on runways and roads, and like the hot air balloons, they require low-grade fuel to operate. So I think I put some fuel in my inventory just for this purpose. I'm going to try to fly this thing. But yeah, mini-copters can be found. You need low-grade fuel. I hear these are hard to fly. I've never tried it before. Let's see what happens. There's also a scrap helicopter, a scrap transport helicopter that you can find as well. I saw one over this direction. Let's see if it's still there. It was on fire though. Oh yeah, there it is. So those are the transport options that are currently available. Yeah, I don't think I can use that one. It's on fire. I don't know, maybe I'll try, but oh, there's another horse here too. So that's how you find horses. Obviously, there are only so many horses that are actually in the game though, so people will claim these things, horses, mini-copters, scrap helicopters. People are going to take them and try to keep them. They'll put them in their bases, but if you're really lucky, you might find one of your own. There are also rumors, there's been talk that there are more vehicles coming. They've been making a lot of upgrades to the road system, so land-based vehicles presumably will also be coming as well. There are special locations in the game and events in the game that are referred to as monuments. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't try to do that. Not quite yet. Maybe I'll come back to that for fun at the end, right? So special locations in the game are called monuments, and you can look at your map to find the major monuments. You can see there's an abandoned supermarket nearby, there's a sewer branch. Those are sort of basic ones, and there's lower tier and higher tier monuments like the airfield and the harbor are a little higher. There's a launch site, which is, you know, space rocket launch site, and so higher tier monuments will have more loot and better loot. There's also the oil rig, which was added relatively recently. That's a pretty high tier thing. There's the outpost. So yeah, I believe that's yeah, anyway, I haven't even gone that far, but the outpost, I believe, is where you find the scientists and their vending machines and all that kind of stuff. So that's like a safe area, actually. But other ones will have, they're called scientists. They're NPCs that guard certain monuments. So some of them are friendly and some of them are hostile. If you go to like the oil rig, there are definitely hostile NPCs there. So there's a lot of progression in this whole system of monuments. There are also hazards besides the hostile scientists, and hostile players, of course, will be raiding these monuments as well. There's also radiation, so you can wash off radiation in water. Clothing and pills can protect you from radiation, and you can also heal from radiation afterwards. There's a card system of progression in some of the higher tier monuments. So first it's the green card, then the blue card, then the red access cards to get through the different sections of the monument. The initial green cards can be found in basic locations like the gas station or the supermarket, and then you'll need to find the higher tier cards later. There are puzzles at a lot of these higher tier monuments where you must like reestablish power to be able to use the cards, and then there's fuses, timers, release mechanisms, all kinds of stuff. The cards that you get have a limited number of uses, so get power and everything else set up before you try to use them. Again, there are safe zones, the outposts, and also the bandit town, which are protected by NPCs and turret defenses, so you can go there and you can hang out and you'll be all right. Does this map even have a bandit town? Maybe. I feel like I saw it somewhere. Anyway, but outpost is safe, bandit town is safe. Those are safe zones, and you can even play little games there and stuff. Yeah, the outpost again has vending machines and crafting stations. It's run by the scientists. You can find those things elsewhere as well. The bandit town is in a swamp. It's run by bandits who trade and run a casino. And those are safe as long as you aren't holding a weapon in your hand. Except for the rock torch and flashlight, other weapons in your hand will get you killed by those auto turrets and so on. You are not allowed to sleep there or kill people there. I don't know if the bandit town still has a blind spot under the gambling room. It used to. There are also, again, lots of other monuments. There's a Bradley NPC that I believe that guards the launch site, if I recall correctly. There's a helicopter event where higher tier... there's a helicopter that will fly over, and it will actually target higher tier players with better gear. If you're naked and afraid, it won't bother with you. There's also an airdrop that comes every so often. There's a cargo ship that moves around the seas. I don't know if we can spot that here anywhere. It's an event, actually. So there's I believe there's an announcement when the cargo ship arrives, and then people will compete to try to raid the cargo ship and take its loot. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to get at. And let's just see if we can fly a flaming copter. What could possibly go wrong, right? I probably need to fix it first or something. I don't know. I've never done this before. Let's put some fuel in the flaming copter. It's a great idea. Hey, it works. Look at that. So, hope you like this video. I'm probably going to die. Give it a like if you did. Check out my second channel if you want to see me play random games with my friends. Check out this channel if you want more game guides and Terraria stuff. I do a lot of Terraria. So subscribe to one or both if you like what you see. And there's the oil rig out there. I hope to see you again. Bye for now. Uh-oh. That's not good.